Hi everyone, I'm Sally and welcome to today's Atta webinar. Just a couple of reminders before we begin. As always, if anyone has any questions during the presentation, please feel free to type those into the Q&A box on your screen. I will then field these to Steve at the end, who is our presenter today. If you miss any information, please don't worry, as a recording of the webinar will be sent out to everyone afterwards with Steve's contact details should you have any further questions. So on to the webinar. Today, I'm joined by Steve Venton, who's a qualified British canoeing coach and advanced water kayaker with around 20 years of experience. Steve returned to Rwanda a few years ago, setting up his own adventure company and training local Rwandese tour guides to become kayaking and canoeing leaders. And on that note, I'll hand over to Steve, who's going to talk to us today about Rwanda, a realm of adventure.
Thank you, Sally. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm delighted to be here and to be able to introduce to you this amazing country, which is so deserving of the title, A Realm of Adventure. Rwanda has literally blown my mind away. And since I've been here, I've been just inundated with ideas and suggestions for things that we can do. And so I've taken it upon myself with the other adventure companies that are based here to help bring this country full of exciting opportunities to its full potential. I work for one company called Kingfisher Journeys, but the other companies that are based in Rwanda are Rwandan Adventures and Green Hills Eco Tours, and together we run Rwanda, a realm of adventures. I'm very sorry, everybody, my screen has locked.
Steve, you can try clicking on the screen, perhaps.
I'm sorry, Sally. I am.
That's okay.
I'm afraid
Sorry, everyone, just bear with us a moment.
That's not working. There's got the focus there.
It's working fine before. What's your plan, Steve?
I'm just going to stop the share for 10 seconds, making sure it's working, and then come back on again.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, as I was saying, welcome to Rwanda. It's a adventure destination and full of interesting things to see, amazing places to go, wonderful wildlife, and now a realm of adventure. So there are so many different things that you can see and do all over the country. I'm going to take you on a brief tour of some of the activities and places that we call home for the adventure activities that we've created. But nestled amongst them are a range of fantastic accommodation options and so many other things that are really great to see. So without further ado, I want to show you the Virunga Volcanoes set the scene for a country which is in the heart of Africa. They're iconic in what they mean for us as being an elusive destination that's full of mystery and mystique. And so it's to these volcanoes that we've come for our adventure today. And when you get to the summit of them, you get these amazing views. This is taken from the summit of Karisimbi, the highest of all the Virunga volcanoes at just over 4,000 meters. And looking over this chain of volcanoes, you can see Bisoke, Sabinyo, the small one just below the final one is called Kahinga, and then we've got Murabura in the distance. And each of them is available for climbing. The 4 of them at the moment, and Sabinyo will be coming online very soon, I believe. They offer a great day hikes, and there's a campsite that you can stay at in the saddle between Bisoke and Karisimbi. So for climbing Karisimbi, you actually get to camp in the national park as well. At the summits, of course, there are at 2 or 3 of the volcanoes, there are some amazing crater lakes. This is the summit of Bisoke. It's a fairly steep climb to get here, but the views when you get to the top are really amazing. And just poking out at the distance is the volcano actually in DRC called Mercano. But outside of the national parks, there is also so much to see and do. We take people hiking and walking around the countryside. There are various different grades of walks that you can explore, from short walks like this one that takes us along the lake shore of Lake Rwanda, one of the twin lakes, just nestled in the foothills of the Virunga volcanoes themselves, through to multi-day hikes that you can do from lodge to lodge through the countryside. So what's really great about this is that you can go from one of the great places to the next, and of course your bags are taken from one place to the next, and you get to see the countryside with guides who know what they're talking about and introduce you to the local communities and the ways in which they live. And so we get an insight into community life as well as the nature and the wildlife that we'll see along the way. It is a beautiful landscape full of surprises, and I was hiking the other day, and I just am still wowed by each view that I get. And so I'm sure that there's so much more to discover here than we're just beginning to scratch the surface. But we're really looking to develop hiking from lodge to lodge and around the various national parks as a key product for trekking in Rwanda over the coming months and years. So this is one to watch. Inside the forests again, this is on the slopes of Sabinyo, and there are these ancient forests are some of the oldest on the planet. They've survived throughout the ice ages when most of the rest of the rainforests, I understand, became savannas, and so these forests have been around for millions of years, and so they're full of amazing wildlife and biodiversity, which is incredible to be inside such an amazing ecosystem. And so what we're doing is we're taking people there not just for the wildlife, though that is amazing, but also for the value of the forest itself, because that is an attraction and it's an interesting place to go. It inspires you with a sense of awe and wonder at these incredible places, and I just love getting into places like this, and it really is an amazing experience to be there and to spend real quality time rather than just hiking in and hiking out. We're actually there and we're enjoying it and feeling at one with nature and with the environment that we're in. And then we explore further afield outside of the Virunga volcanoes. We go down into the Albertine Rift Valley, where the largest lake in Africa that I believe it's the largest lake in Africa that doesn't have a single hippo or crocodile, and so it makes it an absolutely beautiful spot to go kayaking and to do some great water sports. And it's the juxtaposition of the modern with the old. So we have with the traditional, rather, sorry. So we have an opportunity to be doing kayaking, but also to be doing it at a high standard, but also to be doing it in the middle of Africa, where you'll come across all sorts of interesting sights and birds and in the bushes and the local communities and the fishermen making their lives along the way. The lake itself is a beautiful, beautiful place. It's full of uninhabited islands, and it's full of so many wonderful views and communities that are along the lake shore, and I'll talk to you about one or two of those in a second. But we have a playground which is full of opportunity. It's about 170 kilometers or so from end to end. And so we run short trips around Gisenyi and Kibuye, the two main towns in the northern end at the moment, and multi-day trips in between, staying at a variety of different accommodation options, whether it's camping on small islands, where's that gone? So whether it's camping on small islands, or whether it's going to some of the higher end lodges, which there are several options for along the way. And one of the most beautiful things to do when you're on the lake is to see the fishermen as they set out in the evening. At sunset, they have they sing as they go. It's quite a special thing to see. It's a cultural event which is not staged. It's just what happens. And so it's a really special moment to be there as the sun's setting. And these guys are paddling out some huge boats there. What you're seeing is 3 hulls tied together with logs. And they paddle in teams of 9, and they all paddle together. And so they sing to each other, I think, to help each other to keep time and to offer encouragement, because they paddle out to the lake at night, and then they shine lights into the water to attract the fish and catch them in their nets, which they hang from these long booms that go from the bow and the stern of each of the fishing boats. So for us, it's a special way to be on the water and to get close to community life and to see something which is very special for this part of Africa. We also have a river that is nearby where we are full of really so many birds. It's a delight to go down. I think we've counted around about 40 species of birds, and that we've seen on the river. And on any given trip, we probably see about 25 or 26 different species. I'm afraid there's not really any very rare ones, but occasionally you get a crested crane or various other interesting species that come. But what's really nice is that you see different birds that you wouldn't have seen at other times. So this is Sandrine, who's leading the trip with some clients, and we're showing them a beautiful valley which is well away from the road. So we're showing a different part of Africa. We're taking people into a community, into a place where most tourists just don't go, but in a beautiful, quiet, unobtrusive way where we can get to meet people properly. Excuse me. And this was the slide I thought was next earlier, so sorry about that. And we camp on little uninhabited islands, sometimes when we're on Lake Kivu. And whether this is an adventure camp where we've carried everything with us, and so we're being self-sufficient with everything that we've got. But equally, it's possible to camp with higher end tents and with a more of a provided service where everything is organised like a proper tented camp would be. So there are various different options for different places to go. And it's not just camping in the islands, there are options for camping in various different parts of Rwanda as well. And so as we link together hiking options, I think we're going to be developing more ways of staying in different places, including in some tented camps around the country. And then we have mountain biking. And so we crisscross the trails across this landscape. Rwanda, as you probably know, is a very densely populated country. But that means that there's little trails everywhere, and it's a mountain biker's paradise. You don't have to be seriously into your downhill if you're interested in just having a nice time and enjoying some fantastic trails and the dirt roads that are all over the place. Then this is the place to come. It's great to get on two wheels, and you can go a bit further and you can go a bit faster, so you can see more of the countryside. And every now and again, you're rewarded with one of these amazing views over a tea plantation, or a valley that looks like I don't know, something out of something. It's just a magical scene. And so we really have some fantastic routes to share with you. This one here is a route that comes off of from the Virunga Volcanoes. It starts at one of the lodges, and it descends just gently down on this dirt track. It gets the occasional motorbike, but basically it's a quiet track which is just easy to freewheel down most of the way. And we finish up by the side of the Twin Lakes, and then we have some great views and maybe lunch at one of the lodges afterwards. Along the way, there are so many things to see. There's brick factories, and there's communities. There's various different people are growing different crops, and so the guides are going to be explaining everything about the local communities and what they're doing to you, and making sure that you're having a really inspirational and learning experience, as well as just having a fun activity. Also, there are if mountain biking sounds a little bit hard, one of Rwandan Adventures do have some e-bikes as well, so they're helpful for people that want a little bit of extra support when you may be challenged by one or two little hills, which there are some of. We then can meet some friendly communities, and we meet lots of amazing people around the country. I like to think that people perhaps come to Rwanda for the wildlife, and they come to see the adventure things, and they come for the landscapes, and they're blown away by all of those. But for me, it's the people that have really made this country special. And so spending some time while you're here, learning from them and meeting them and understanding more about the challenges and the rigors and the beauty of their life, that makes something really special. This is a photo taken by Azizi Life, who are also a community organization that run tours for community-based tours in Rwanda. I should also mention Red Rocks, which do something quite similar in Musanze. And they are doing some amazing work with the local communities and creating jobs and employment for these people, and inspiring the visitors that come to find out something different about the country that they're traveling through. And then we go and see the activities that they do. This is sorting coffee beans. This is one of the activities which you can do on just off Lake Kivu, but it also takes place in various other different parts of the country. Rwanda really does make some of the best coffee in the world. And it's interesting to see how the cherries are picked, and then they're sorted and washed, and the whole process that goes into making a really, really great cup of coffee. And one of the really nice things to see is actually the coffee beans that you've just seen being processed, actually being roasted right in front of you, and then being ground and drinking that cup of coffee right there. And of course, where would we be without Rwanda's famous Intore dancing? It's a special thing which this country is so famous for. This photo is taken actually just below Savinio volcano, and it's a really important part of the Rwandan culture. Of course, Nyungwe Forest, as well as Volcanoes National Park, in the north, where the volcanoes are. The other main park is the Nyungwe National Park. It's one of the largest afro-montane forests, as we've said, which is an ecosystem which is spread across various different parts of Africa. Unfortunately, it's become rather fragmented, but the Nyungwe National Park is one of the largest remnants of this mighty forest that's left, and it's home to East Africa's only canopy walkway, which is some 200 meters long, rises about 50 meters or so above the ground. Surrounded by ancient trees and beautiful ecosystem, it gives a unique perspective on this amazing national park. And it's full of so many birds, and I think it's a bird's paradise. I think there was 310 species there that they said. And of course, this is where we go to see chimpanzees, colobus, and a dozen or so other primates, such as the mountain monkeys, blue monkeys, vervet monkeys, grey-cheeked monkeys, owl-faced monkeys, olive baboons, red-tailed monkeys, mona monkeys, golden monkeys, galagos, potos, and the last two of those are nocturnal. This is a really special place to go. I've been to see the chimpanzees twice now, and I was stunned by the experience. And when we went to see them last time, we actually saw 3 species of primates all at the same time in the same place. They nest in the trees overnight, so you need to get up early in the morning so that you can track them early and find them before they move off for the day. But but when you get there, they are an amazing experience to see, and they literally swing you from the trees. And if you're very lucky, you might catch them running on the ground. And then, of course, we have the gorillas. But I'm not going to talk about gorillas because there's so much else to say, and I'm sure you all know about the gorillas in Rwanda. Suffice it to say that they are amazing. But Rwanda is a realm of adventure, and it's a very special place to visit. And I would urge you to visit and to bring your clients. And one small plug, I will be at Experience Africa in a couple of weeks. So if anybody would like to come and see me, I'd be very pleased to meet you. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve, for that very in-depth presentation. That was great. If anyone has any questions, please do type them into the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, and we will just wait for those to come through now. Okay, I've got a question from Craig. What are the luxury resorts on offer in Rwanda?
There are many of them. There is One and Only, there's Bisate Lodge, there's Songa Lodge, there's Singita, sorry, get that right. There is Wilderness Safaris have a new camp which has just been opened in Akagera. I forget the name of it. Sorry. But there are at least 10 to 12 Magahi camp, and there are at least 10 to 12 luxury lodges. They're based all around the country, from Nyungwe Forest to along the lake shore, and there's boutique hotels as well. So there's places like 5 Volcanoes and Heaven Resort in Kigali. There's small places as well, and I actually quite like some of the small ones. They're really special.
Thanks, Steve. We've got a question from Daniel. What does an ideal 10-day itinerary look like?
Oh, for me, it's a mixture. I think that you've got to go and see Nyungwe Forest. You've got to go and see the gorillas, of course. But let's try and incorporate some of the other activities and some of the special remote off the beaten track places. So we'd start in Kigali and maybe have a day around the city, and we'll show you a bit. We'll get you underneath the skin of the place. We'll show you the culture, and you'll get to meet some people in a milk bar or something like that. You'll go to the market, and then you'll head down south to Nyungwe. You might stop off at a community project, visit the King's Palace or the Ethnographic Museum, go and see the chimpanzees and do the canopy walkway. Maybe you do an overnight trip in Nyungwe Forest as well, because that's an amazing thing to do. let's stop off on Lake Kivu and watch the singing fishermen, or do a day trip on Kivu. Maybe do a little bit of hiking or mountain biking on the Congo Nile Trail with Rwandan Adventures or Green Hills Eco Tours. And then head up to Nyungwe. We tend to do a loop. This is quite common, that starts in Kigali and it goes south towards Nyungwe and then comes back up to the top. Maybe I should just go to the back to the map. So we start in Kigali and then we go south towards Nyungwe Forest, and then we work our way up through Lake Kivu. And what I like about the new adventures that we've been able to create here is that we're joining together things. And so it's not about just going from Kigali to one forest and then to the next national park. It's about there's now opportunity to do things in between.
Thanks, Steve. If you could...
I'm afraid I'm not going to give you an exact... And don't forget Akagera National Park, I should add, as well. So we have a safari park which has all the big five and so much more. It's a really special place. It's got one of the most diverse ecosystems in any of the national parks in Africa, I believe.
That's great, thank you. If you could just give a quick overview of this. Savi is saying, sorry I missed the beginning of the webinar, whereabouts do these activities take place? So if you could just briefly say about the canoeing and the hiking, mountain biking, just where they were. Thank you.
So, well, hiking takes place in lots of different parts of the country. So we can go hiking in Nyungwe, hiking around Nyungwe Forest, hiking along the Congo Nile Trail, hiking Mahungwe Mountain is amazing. I went there on Monday and I was just blown away. Hiking around the volcanoes, around the Twin Lakes, and you can even do walk the line in Akagera National Park, where you go with a ranger to see some of the anti-poaching patrols and things like that, and it's an amazing place to go. Mountain biking takes place in mostly around Gisenyi and Masanzi in the north, because that's where the operators are mostly based, but we're setting up new ideas and new opportunities around Nagatare and in the south around Nyungwe Forest and Changogo maybe. There's the kayaking obviously is all taking place on Lake Kivu. It's proper sea kayaking. Then there's river trips on the Mukungwa River, which is the place just due south of where my big gorilla is in that picture. And then there's various different places to camp in various different national parks and several islands in Lake Kivu.
Steve, are you there?
I am.
Oh, perfect. Sorry, I thought I'd cut off. Okay, a question from Geordie. Because of the high price of the gorilla permit comparing to Uganda, is it possible / advisable to combine by road gorillas in Uganda and the rest of the attractions in Rwanda?
I mean, it does work. They are close together, but I would just add that the Rwanda gorillas are worth it. And so the experience of seeing the gorillas in Rwanda, don't be put off. It's amazing and it really is great. So, but we are close together, and there's a 10%. What the government does here is to give 10% of the revenue of that $1,500, which is the peak season price. 10% of that goes to the community. And I should also add that if you visit two of the national parks, so if you spend a night in Akagera and a night in Nyungwe Forest, or 2 nights in Nyungwe Forest between November and May, there's a discount on. There's a $450 discount on the price of the gorillas, so it's actually just $1,050.
Thanks, Steve. A question from Craig: what is there to do in Kigali?
There are markets. There's art shops. There's coffee, some amazing coffee. There's birding. There's trekking. There's community initiatives. There's places, there's conservation projects where you can help people work with the crested cranes. There's amazing people doing some great innovations and working with different types of products and services which I think what's interesting for me is that Rwanda is an African country, but it's charging forward into the 21st century at such a rate of knots that it's about seeing the new as much as what we would class because I'm British and I think that's what we would think of as traditional Africa. Kigali is a cosmopolitan modern city, and so what we want to do is to show people a different side of this amazing capital. So lots of traditional things, but there's also some great modern ways of some shopping and some fabric shops and workshops and modern furniture and all sorts of cooperatives, which are really interesting to see as well.
Fantastic, Steve, thanks. A couple of questions from Glenn, which I'm going to combine because they're to do with access and road transfers. So the first one is, what are the options for access from Kigali? And then are all transfers by road, for example, the time to Nyungwe?
There are Rwanda is mostly serviced by road. There's no rail in Rwanda yet, but there are one or two flights which you can take around the country. So there's a Rwandair flight that goes from Kigali to what says Changogo on my map, and it's called Ruzizi on more officially. So that's a 30 or 40 minute flight, and so obviously what that means is that you can get to Nyungwe Forest in a really short time, other than that, Akagera Aviation have just started a scheduled helicopter flight. I'm not sure of the exact locations that it flies, but I believe that it's flying between Kigali and Kinigi and to Chagogo as well. So getting around the country, there are many more options as well as by car.
Okay, we've just got one more question from Craig. With the adventures that you're creating, do you or have you created any luxury offerings?
We work with all of so my company and the other adventure companies, we certainly Rwandan Adventures, we work with several of the other high-end DMCs, and so we combine the adventures that we run with the high-end services that you're used to. We're the inbound adventure provider for Rwanda. So if people have looking for an adventure tour, then we would be very keen to run that. But equally, we supply adventure activities to the other DMCs. So if you already work with your favorite DMC in Rwanda that provides a very high-end service and you want to add in some adventure activities, then please feel free to continue to use your existing DMC, and we will run the activity and adventure, and we'll work with them to provide the itinerary for you. But we can equally also create an adventure activity, a high-end adventure activity itinerary, and we'll be very keen to talk to you and explain to you what we can do in more detail.
Thanks very much, Steve. I think that's all the questions we've got for now. So if anyone has any further questions, please feel free to get in touch with Steve. As I said, I'll include his contact details on the email that will be sent out to all of you later this afternoon or tomorrow. Otherwise, Steve, thank you so much for that presentation. Thank you everyone for attending, and hope you will have a lovely rest of your day.
Thank you.